Hi everyone, it's me Kevin. I am back with yet another video. Today I thought I would play a little bit more Neopets, and then also, if you are someone that keeps up with me, you may know that I was part of something very exciting this week. I think it was this week. This week, I was part of TNT's AMA, which was such a cool and exciting experience. Yeah, honestly, it was like really stressful too. Not gonna lie, very nerve-wracking, but we made it. We made it. And I thought it might be kind of fun if I embarrassed myself further by watching it again with y'all here and maybe providing some like additional little what's that thing that people do when they like talk over how they made a movie? The director's cut? I'm basically the director here. But yeah, I think I'm gonna watch it back, cringe at myself for doing whatever it is that I did, because I'm sure I did a lot of really cringy things, and also maybe give a little bit more detail on like what went on in the back end, and maybe give a little bit of context on specific things as well. Okay, so we have the video here, we have the chat going here. I actually was not reading the chat as I was like doing this because I knew that it would throw me off. I remember back when I was on Twitch, I used to read the chat and also play the game and like try to like keep things interesting and like also like try to make conversation with the folks in the chat. And I remember like that would always like throw me off and make it really difficult for me to like pay attention to any given thing. So I did not want to mess things up here. And I think that's also why YouTube is a bit of a better platform for me personally, just because it makes it really it makes it easier for me to think through my thoughts and slowly go at what I'm trying to say, like right now where I'm sounding so smart and articulate, I'm sure, but you know what I mean. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. I think the actual like, oh God.
Hello,
Oh God.
hello.
God.
Hi, everyone.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, this is so wild. Hello, everyone. Happy holidays, Neopets fans, Neopets gamers. Before we get started with that, let me introduce myself really quickly. My name is Kevin. I'm a YouTube content creator. My channel is called Kevino Gaming.
One thing about that, I actually almost said Kevino Crossing. A lot of you, well, some of you may be here from my like Instagram Animal Crossing days, and my handle on Instagram was Kevino Crossing, and I just like converted that to Kevino Gaming for my YouTube channel. And like every time I was rehearsing this intro in my head leading up to this, I kept saying Kevino Crossing, and I was like, I cannot say that on this stream. So like right when I was like doing this, I was like, all right, I'm gonna say that part really slow and think it out so I don't say the wrong thing. And I still almost said it wrong there.
You may also know me as I Don't Get It on Neopets. I'm primarily on the pet trading boards, bumping boards by myself.
Okay, so a handful of things there. Like my voice started cracking because I was like so nervous. Y'all, I was shaking while I was doing this entire AMA. The entire time I was so nervous. My entire shirt was like wet by the time I was done because I was sweating so much. A little TMI, but like, oh my God, I was so anxious. I'm also recognizing a bunch of folks I know in the chat here. Thank you all for showing up. You'll notice throughout this entire AMA, I do this with my like chin a lot like this. That's me trying to calm myself down because I was like shaking so bad. Oh God.
What would you say, like, to you personally, is like the highlight of, everything you've rolled out thus far?
I would say the highlight,
So a little bit of backstage, like tea, I guess. A lot of the conversation that I have with Dom here, like a lot of the skeleton of what we talk about is scripted out. So like even though the word for word dialogue is not scripted, we still like have talking points. We still have like a back and forth that we're going to be following so that we can have a smooth like cadence here. You'll see in a bit and I'll call it out, but like there are a lot of times where I would sit there and like, we would have a little back and forth and like it would be his turn to like ask me something and then nothing would be said. And then, oh, you'll see.
Through the entire time that it's been kind of on the internet.
Right here.
So
definitely exciting.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Stuff like that is like so awkward to me because like he wasn't saying anything. Oh my God.
So do you feel like anything interesting is on the horizon so far right now?
I was sitting there, I was like, oh my God, I need to say something now or it's just gonna be even more awkward. And then we ended up talking over each other. Oh God, y'all, I cannot.
I've definitely been participating in the advent calendar myself.
The reason I segue into the advent calendar conversation here is that technically Dom was supposed to be like, hey Kevin, are you participating in the advent calendar? Like obviously for this AMA, it's like a holiday AMA, so we need to talk about the advent calendar. So I was like waiting for him to ask that question and he was supposed to ask that like a few minutes before this actually, but it wasn't. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna talk about it now instead of waiting for you to ask me.
Rocks are also awesome pets, iconic for sure. My friend Colleen talked me into using one for one of the pets that I always customize. And, I like to change up the customization every season. And I feel like the rock in particular so versatile in terms of the thematics that you can get when you paint the pet. So having a perfectly matching P3 is really awesome.
So this is actually true. I was not talking out of my booty here. So I do have a pet. Her name is Lilask that I have a pet rock for. And this is a pet that I do actually paint by the season. And I usually customize this Aisha to match the season as well. Clearly, as you can see, it's December 16th and I'm still in like spooky Halloween vibes, which is my usual vibe. But like I do like to dress this pet up. The backstory behind this is that my friend Colleen that I mentioned in the AMA, she did recommend I get a pet rock because she was also a fan of rocks. And we were talking about what colors to pick, and I was like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be fun if I like change the color depending on the season and the customization on Lilask? And she was like, what about disco? And I was like, disco? I was like, why don't I just make that the name and I'll do something else with the color? I do want to attach the the pebble, but that means I have to take off the pet and reset the number of days. And not only do I lose the Bumblas, but then I have to start at 0 again. And y'all know I love aged pets a lot. So the thought of making this, like resetting the number of days this has been attached, like kills me internally. I'll have to think about it because the P3, like I was being totally genuine, like that matches so well here and it'll be a tough choice to make.
Awesome. Cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, great job.
So yeah, how long have you been a content creator?
So I feel like I've been creating content for a while.
So I feel like I should have known right there that like when it's Dom's turn to ask a question, I need to wait a few more seconds that I'm comfortable with because I think he waits for me to be done and not say anything before he feels the need to like jump in with his talking point. Whereas for me, it's like, that's awkward. Like, you know where I'm done. You know when you're supposed to come up, jump right in, make it a casual flow. I wanted this AMA to feel very conversational, especially because I knew Ben, we're friends. So I knew that it would be very comfortable and conversational. And I just wanted that to be the vibe for the entire AMA. But I think Dom and I have like very different talking styles. And I feel like that like did not mesh well for this entire like session.
Really got my start back on Tumblr in like
Tumblr. Every once in a while, someone will like come onto one of my videos and be like, hey, I kind of recognize you. Did you used to have a Tumblr? And y'all, it's kind of like a semi-secret, but like back in, I want to say like the middle of college, so like 2014, 2015, like I had a fairly big following on Tumblr as like a humor blog poster person. So every once in a while, like someone will like recognize me from that and they're like, wait a second, is that you? And I'm like, it's me. It's me. That horrifying era of my life is permanently cemented into the internet.
Enjoy sharing this like very niche interest that I have and letting people know that like, hey, you may remember this game from 15 years ago that you used to play and you may have this like memory of it, but in reality, there's so much more underneath all of the things that you can be, spending your time on here. There's such a nuance to every single activity and, there's a lot of competitiveness and a lot of like achievements that you can really work towards by kind of investing yourself into the game.
I stand by that. The very first Neopets I made was like what I do on Neopets in 2022, I think it was. I cannot believe it's been like, it's about to be 2024, so that's wild. The reason I made that was because, like Neopets is this niche hobby that I have and everyone just thinks, oh, like, what do you do on that game? Like, do you even do anything? Like, that's what kids play, right? But no, like y'all know there's more to do. So I just felt the need to like highlight that. Oh my God, someone clocked me right here. Kevin seems nervous. I was. That was me trying my best.
Recently, there was a lot of controversy surrounding the release of the Seasonal Attack P, SAP, in day 1 of Advent Calendar. Could you provide some more context around that, around P-Gate, P-Mageddon?
I will probably speed through a lot of Dom's responses here because I'll be totally straightforward with y'all. He kind of rambles. Like some of these answers took like several minutes to answer and it could have been like a few sentences or less even. Through this AMA, he would just like keep explaining each of the intricacies of like the answer. I'm just like, we can move on. Like, and like you can like visibly see on my face, I'm like starting to lose my attention span. And I'm like, I start to like look at my script again and like review my notes. I think people are catching on to it really fast. Oh my God, this is me trying to be an attentive listener. But I guess just to like paraphrase what he was getting at was that the intent was like, what better like thing to excite our players than to release an item that has historically been such a significant value and like, cultural influence like a seasonal attack P. And the intent was for that to be released at an extremely low rate so that some folks can get super excited about it. Following the original release, it seems like they needed to have some more discussions and they realized, hey, this probably isn't the best for the game. So they went back and changed the drop rate. I know some people think it's like not a big deal and that they shouldn't even be talking about this over other questions, but I do feel like it caused enough of a strife that it's nice that TNT is actually addressing it. So I wouldn't fault them for using a question on that. And I will also say, because I feel like it may need to be said, the seasonal attack bait is still in the advent calendar price pool. It's just a lot lower now.
All right, so recently TNT Willow and Tally were let go. What happened?
Okay. So just as like prior context, like these questions are for the most part predetermined, but they are pulled from like questions from the community. So they're pulled from like social media pages and all that stuff. I feel like it still technically counts as an AMA, but then it also gives the team time to like actually prep a proper answer instead of trying to answer something random in the moment, which I feel like is fair. With that said, I was not a fan of this question. I feel like it was a little inappropriate to be using these like people's like likeness. I don't know if the intent going into this was to be malicious in any way. How I understood this was that they wanted to kind of address something where people that have a high amount of visibility in our community, people who are like very well liked. I met both Willow and Tally when I went to San Diego Comic-Con. They were fantastic people. My thought going into this was that they had prepared some kind of like shout out for them or something, like just kind words and like move on. But it kind of turned into a situation where they were talking about like hiring people. It was not a good energy. And like when you're a host, you don't have a lot of autonomy over the questions. Like I definitely did have a say in a lot of the way things were phrased and some of the structure of the actual AMA itself. Yeah, like the actual like answers and like what's being said, I had no idea what would be said. So like when I was hearing this, I was just like, ooh, yikes, bro. Like please don't like talk about having new openings when you just let people go. Like that's not a good vibe. Ugh. This is one I was like pretty curious about because I also wanted to get more tea on like how they actually plan to reintroduce items and like what their next steps would be, because I've not made it a secret that I don't know if they've always made the best decisions in how they release items. I think the quest log and on release was like really interesting, but I thought the prize pool was quite questionable. And now that it's been I want to say like over a month since the quest log released, even like they should have rotated the prize pool by now. They should have increased or done something to balance it. I recognize on release, there are just going to be some growing pains and things they need to learn as they're doing things, but it's been long enough where it definitely should have been updated to some degree. And I wanted to get more of an understanding of like what they plan to do now that they have some of these learnings. So in short, they're thinking about ideas like adding items to the hidden tower, which is a good idea because it acts as an NP sync as well. And it's something that I hope they actually like flesh out a little bit further so that they can have like a substantial amount of NP leaving the economy. I think another thing that they talked about was the botting situation, and introducing these ways to get items into the economy will only be heavily abused and impact the deflation and like really destabilize the economy if they don't get a handle on the botting situation as well, because I feel like anything they do will just like be heavily abused by these people with like huge number of bots under their names. It sounds like there's a lot of ideas floating around there, but it's just a matter of like having the developer resources to actually support those ideas and just making sure that they're making the right decisions and thinking about it carefully. So for the most part, kind of a non-answer, but it sounds like they have some ideas on the plate. So hopefully we see more coming on. Something I also think about as far as ways to bring items back into the economy is like things like rare item codes. I know that's a bit pay to win, but I just feel like there should be more ways to diversify and also have like varying levels of effort required to get certain items. Like it doesn't always have to be a freebie or something that you can get at a super high rate. Like you can introduce some items that like have like a 10% rate to get, some items that have like a 2% rate to get, some items here and there, and like spread it all over the place. And I feel like that helps to diversify the activities like someone can participate in and say, if you want this item, you can go to this daily or this activity, or if you want this item, you can go here. You can make things accessible while also adding some kind of long-term sustainable goal attached to them as well.
So I do think it's like something that has been a long-standing problem. So it's not going to be solved in a few months. So it's just definitely don't think it's an easy problem. So good luck to y'all.
I really said, good luck. That is not my problem. I do not get paid for that. So have fun.
Can we please, all caps, have the ability to link our side accounts to our main and transfer and see items within our accounts without using boxes.
Okay, so this was actually a really interesting one, and I had no idea they were even thinking about this going into this thingy. But honestly, it's an extremely fair question. I feel like I've always found the mechanics of how people or how we use side accounts so clunky. The fact that we have to log out of one, log into a different one just to like access things like galleries, other pets, is all just very unnecessarily like difficult to navigate. So I would love this kind of like functionality to be added. They were talking about how they can like marry that in with something like the Neopets structure, which is like a centralized login hub for all the accounts that you have underneath your name, and all the other like games or whatever that TNT plans to launch. Hopefully that will make it easier for us to be able to like move, whether it's pets, items, or NC between accounts. And hopefully it also helps to make everything just a little bit more secure, because as many of us know, Neopets' security is maybe not the most top notch. It sounds like it'll be released fairly soon. I feel like he said like Q1, so like March 2024 at the latest.
So I think we have time for maybe one more question.
Okay, so I lied straight to Dom's face right there. I said I have one more question because I saw the time and we only had like 30 minutes allotted for the Q&A portion. And I saw that it was like 30 minutes into the AMA. You'll see right here, it says like 33 minutes. And I was like, oh shoot, we need to move on. As he was answering this, so the backstage like person that organized all this, shout out to Connor. Connor, you did a fantastic job. I know it was a lot of work on your end too, and I know you put in a ton of hours for this. So thank you so much for helping make this possible with me and helping to organize all of us. But here I was like, yeah, we only have time for one more question. And then Connor's like, oh, actually, I think we have time for like 2 more. And I was like, oh, okay.
What is your stance on the user Neotruths leaking your code and details from your database on Reddit? I thought security was a priority.
I cannot believe they answered this one on the stream. Like, I can't believe this even came up. Like, they were even planning to talk about it, because I feel like it's like kind of a data breach, and like Neotruths has done nothing to me personally. I have no beef with this person. And of course, when this person's posting like random tea about hackers that we all know about, it's interesting. But at its core, this is not a good thing. Like, someone should not have access to all this like secure information, and it just exposes how heavy of a risk the game is at from a security perspective right now. And I think the answer here needed to be like much more curated and much more of a heavy stance. Essentially, he kind of calls Neotruths like a white hat hacker, which for those of you that don't know, it's like people that like intentionally hack a game or something like a database to provide the company with suggestions on ways to improve the security. So it's basically like stress testing a system. This is like not the same thing as that. Like, white hat hackers would not like take that information, post it on public forums. Calling Neotruths that was like very strange to me. So here's my like completely unadvised take. Do not take this as like the truth. Like, Dom and anyone at TNT, no one said this to me. This is just my guess. TNT is probably in like a tricky situation where they know Neotruths is not good from a security perspective. They know that it's like this is a bad thing to be happening to them, but they also recognize that Neotruths has like been around long enough to have a relatively strong like community presence, and a lot of people in the community praise this person and are willing to overlook how big of a data like a security violation this is. And I think Dom felt the need to like provide an answer that was like kind of like tiptoeing between supporting and being against, as to not frustrate people. If that was the case, if this was a question that needed to be that delicate while also on principle being like a fairly big deal, I kind of feel like this should not have been asked in the first place. I probably would have opted to delete this question, because I don't know if addressing it in the way that they did was the right way to go about it.
All right. We're gonna call them a consultant.
Okay, I feel the need to address that comment, because like I said that in response to Dom's response, because the entire time Dom was responding, I was like, oh, this is like a very strange take to be having. But like, I wasn't gonna sit there and be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, that's wrong. Like, I'm not gonna say that. So I was like, I'm just gonna say something that's like jokingly agreeing, I guess, which is why I said consulting, because like they're basically using this person as like a way to like get ideas to do their jobs better. And I was like, okay, we're gonna call them a consultant as a joke. It was a joke, y'all. Please, it was a JK, and just move along, because I had nothing else to say to that. Okay, so this is a question that I feel like they probably should have addressed even before this AMA. To be honest, the ambassadors they're bringing on, and as many of you know, I have also shown interest in being an ambassador. I was not chosen for the first round, and I feel like at this point, I'm a little grateful for that. So the thing is that like these ambassadors, they have at least some access to information, or at the very least are in a position where they have an advantage against your average player. So With that said, that is going to come with increased visibility and increased expectations and responsibilities, which makes them prone to being like hated on as well. I think if you're in an ambassador position, you need to exercise a lot of professionalism to make sure that you are also like kind of delivering those expectations back to the community. But on the flip side, these are people that are just volunteering. They're not getting paid. They're not PR trained. They're not people who are like professionally doing this. They're just people who are passionate about the game and want to help it succeed. So from a community perspective, like putting all these expectations on them feels very unfair. And I'm not talking about like manipulation of the economy. I'm not talking about potential for people to be like, you know, like taking advantage of information. Like that's not really what I'm getting at. I'm like that is not good. And I don't have any factual information surrounding that. So I'd rather not comment on it. I'm not going to take stances there because I just have not researched it enough. But what I do know is that a lot of the folks on there have been getting significant amounts of hate. A lot of it feels extremely unwarranted. And I need a lot of y'all to recognize that these are like people that are just playing the game and oftentimes don't have like the visibility to like give their perspective or give their side of what's going on. So I think it's really important that we take a step back and actually look at the facts and actually think about what is happening and how much power they may actually have behind the scenes before we start to draw conclusions and like dox these people. Like that is just very inappropriate to me. Yeah, please just be like a little bit kinder, I guess. Essentially what Dom kind of got at here was that they're primarily just brought in as like people to advise and like give take on how things may need to like go in terms of direction on the site. Or apparently they make like PowerPoints to show Dom, you know, showcase ideas that could potentially make it onto the game. Hopefully, as the positions and as the ambassador program like matures more, they can learn from that and like create a more structure so that folks on both TNT and the ambassador end aren't like left floundering with like no full support. So yeah. Okay, so the reason I like took a deep breath there was like, mind you, this was 40 minutes into the AMA and I was still shaking and I was so nervous still. Up to this point, all the questions have felt very loaded and all of Dom's responses were just so lengthy and I was like starting to lose like focus. So I was like, all right, get it together, Kevin.
Recently, a project creating Neopets inspired plushies was shut down. Are Neopets going after the sales of unlicensed merchandise?
Okay, so people were commenting how I was like starting to laugh, start like full out laughing here. The reason for that is like I get very giggly when I'm anxious. And like all the questions up to this point, like they felt so like these are like very intense questions and it just like felt very tense the entire time. And like with Dom's answers being so lengthy, I was just like getting more and more stressed out. So that is why I was like starting to laugh because like that's just like my response to being anxious. So I was not like laughing at the question or thinking it was like not important. This question was actually, I thought the answer to this question was fairly like fair. Like they're talking about someone who like created a Kickstarter for Neopets plushies, and I feel like that was what did it in for them.
Also
Oh yeah,
fun.
they did also talk about the fan art program to you know, like make people in the community more official and like give them visibility, be able to even potentially provide art for the game itself. And I feel like that will just be a really cool vibe, and hopefully it's all in a way that people can be fairly compensated while still benefiting the game. I just don't want anything to like lead to like manipulating or like taking advantage of anyone, and like I just want it to be good vibes. I want it to be good vibes. All right, so then we move on to a section with TNT ASAP.
My little header down here, I still have a very soft spot for the Neopian Times when it comes to weeboos and everything.
ASAP is extremely well spoken. Talked about the his background in joining Neopets, started as an intern and made his way up to director at the company, which I feel like was really awesome. Like ASAP has been a participant in a lot of different parts of the site. It was really awesome to meet him and have a conversation with him, and like for him to have a chance to like showcase some of his work in the AMA and get some visibility there, because it's just really nice that like folks like ASAP and the folks that ASAP mentioned, like TNT Stone and TNT Rainbow, are getting the credit and the visibility they deserve, because creatives behind any game are often not credited enough or are often not giving like the flowers that they deserve. So it's just nice that there is an opportunity to showcase that here.
So I know.
Okay, Dom was supposed to say something here, and he wasn't saying anything. And if you look at his face, he's not saying anything. He looks like he's not even looking at the screen. I was like, "Yo, say what you need to say." One thing is that if you're going to be having like a script of like cues and like who should be going after the next, and like if there's going to be an order that you agree upon, like this is a message for Dom if you're looking here, and maybe I'll email you this feedback or something. But if you know that your term is coming up, start to like open your mouth, start to like, you know, like give the signal that you're probably gonna say something. Lean forward a little bit, look at the camera. Start laughing in response to their last question. Do something to show that you're engaged, because otherwise there are just like seconds of nothing being said.
Big props there to Miss Rainbow as well.
Yeah, love it.
And another pause. Another pause. Say
So-
something.
I think another.
Right there, here, this comment, Ambler. Kevin's crutch word. Love it. That is so true. It is definitely my crutch word. It is what I will respond to anything with if I have nothing else to really say, but like still show that like, hey, I am engaged with what you said. I don't have like a meaningful response, but I want you to know that it is interesting to me. That is when I say love it, because it is so flexible. But over here, I just like mentioned the stocking spectacular because that was something the team wanted to showcase, because obviously a lot of work goes into it and it's NC. However, I was not supposed to be the one to say that there. So I was like, okay, are you gonna say anything? And then nothing got said. So then that's when I made up that response. So I said this thing about how I would like wait in high school to go redeem them. This never happened. I think I didn't start like getting stocking spectacular stuff until like college, but I just threw high school out there for some reason. My mind was like racing, I guess, and nobody clocked me. And I was like so scared that I would say that. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, was stocking spectacular even a thing when I was in high school? Turns out it was. So go me, I can lie on the spot. All right, so that was actually the last question for Aesop, and I just let him go here. And then we bring in
Thanks for having me. It was a
Ben.
pleasure.
Hello.
Hey Kevin, hey Dom. My cat's been so good for the entire
Ben.
stream when he just jumped in my lap.
Awesome.
I'm so glad like Ben came in here with like a good and like relaxed vibes, because up to this point I was still so tense and I felt like I was not having like the same like level of calmness that I would have had if Ben was probably like earlier on in the segments. But yeah, Ben came in,
perfect
showed his
time.
little cat. Ben's the best, y'all. Like genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever met. One of the smartest people I've ever met too. So truly like just like a very empathetic and fantastic person. And I'm so glad that he had opportunity to just kind of like showcase himself and everything he's like worked so hard to develop. I don't know. I'm just like very proud of him for sure.
We're at a meetup and we're in Orlando and we're in a swimming pool and we're just like chatting and realize like
What Ben's talking about is a response to a question that I asked in the middle of his introduction about how it would be really interesting for him to talk about like the way GC came to be. And what he's talking about is how Grundo's Cafe was just an idea that came up amongst a group of friends. And, you know, they're like, we can do this, you know? Things like that are just like very inspirational to me, because it's just like, wow, like fantastic ideas can come out of literally nowhere, and just like like people can just be hanging out and be like, hey, why don't we do this? And then it just happens. Like that's so wild to me. But yeah, basically he just like goes on to talk about some of the the site that he's most proud of, and some of the most difficult aspects of it, things like game balancing, economy, things that you might expect to see be difficult even on like neopets.com. And I think some of that is also what makes it relatable for like folks that have been part of backstage of Grundo's Cafe to like see how things are handled on neopets.com and think to ourselves like, dang, like this is challenging stuff, and it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of focus to be able to like undo decades worth of issues. So Ben kind of has an opportunity to ask some questions to Dom as well, talking about some things like, you know, does Grundo's Cafe have a strong position? Will they be like set to cease and desist? You know, let's be real. Like Grundo's Cafe is technically unlicensed, like it is like IP, whatever. Dom's response was leaning on it, saying that like, hey, we want Grundo's Cafe to be more officially like associated with Neopets.com, talking about ways to better integrate the site into the main game as well. So I think that was something that was like really nice to hear for the community, to just know that there's like a security on Grundo's Cafe. Ben also asked about folks being frozen on Neopets.com for talking about Grundo's Cafe. Apparently that was a thing. Dom just said, hey, that should not be happening. If you got frozen for that, let us know and we will unfreeze you. So that was awesome. So we close out that part here, and then we wrap up here with the code. This is no longer valid by the time I'm posting this, but we close out with talking about that. You know, we just like Dom and I say thanks to each other, and, you know, I do my little sign off. And yeah, that was the AMA. It was a really interesting experience, and honestly, like I know a lot of work went into this, so I hope you are all able to at least take away some of the things from it. I know that some of the reception was not the most positive. I know at least everyone has been super positive to me, which is great for me. And I just want to thank everyone that's been so supportive. I got so many kind words from everyone, both on neopets.com, on DMs, and on the Neopets Discord. So thank you all so much for being so supportive of that. I really do appreciate it. So with that, let's go ahead and play some more Neopets. I have no self-control, so of course, you already know I already did my dailies. But I have not done my quest log today yet. I have 12 minutes left on this. I've been re-rolling my weekly rewards recently, and I saw I got the fairy cad, so I think I'm gonna do this week's. I quite like the cads. Well, actually, I don't like cads, but fairy cad, I do like that one. So I will go ahead and do this so I can have one of my own. So I've also been training a lot recently. This is the wrong one, training. I'm using like a training cookie right now. I have an hour and a half left, but if you can see here, Deputy's level is 450, and that means he is not currently trainable. He won't be trainable until 524, so I have around 75 levels more to go before he is back to trainable, and I can start training HP at the school again. It's honestly pretty pricey because it costs around like, on average, I want to say 100 to 150k per level, and I'm doing like 2 or 3 courses a day, so it adds up really fast. I'm really glad I sold off a bunch of my items because I definitely needed the money to afford this endeavor, but we are gonna get him back to his former glory of being trainable no matter what. So my first quest here is purchase any item. It looks like it's just purchase one item here. Wait, am I crazy, or are these numbers higher than they used to be? 5,000, 3,000, and 7,000? That's like a 30,000 reward day. Play a game, feed your Neopet, and so I'm gonna feed my Neopet first, then go to the Wheel of Misfortune so that if I lose an item, I'll have nothing to lose. Spin the wheel, there it goes. We have play a game and groom your Neopet. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop open the grooming item I need. Hopefully nothing too wild. Don't make my pet sick. Okay, that is good enough. Then I will get my brush that I always get. I also don't know if I've done the Battle Dome dailies today, so I'll go ahead and try one of the battles there just to make sure. So I'll groom one of my pets, and then I think the last one I had to do was play a game. Yes. I wanted to give a really quick shout out to Chillery Duff. Big shout out, great content creator. She actually sent me a mystical tablet after seeing one of my videos, which is super awesome. I still have not rolled one yet, so thank you so much for that. If you have not had a chance to check out her content, please do. Fantastic creator, super great vibes, super funny. All right, so it looks like I did not get my rewards for today from the bubbling fungus, so I'm gonna go ahead and do all of those. A Nerk mid a day helps make the red coast stone fees feel a little less painful. All right, and this, send score. Yes. Claim, 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 claim. All right. And someone was asking me on one of my videos how I rotate my weekly reward. If you do not do your daily, your weekly reward progress resets, and the item can also reset as well. It doesn't always reset, and sometimes like for a few days in a row, or for some people, it seems to be like a very long time, you'll have the same item, but eventually it will reroll as long as you don't do your daily. So it's both a blessing and a curse, because on one hand, if you are like on this check mark and then you forget to do your daily and it resets, that would be really painful. On the other hand, if you're stuck with like a bunch of items that are worth like 20k now, it's a kind of a nice blessing. But yeah, that's another thing. I kind of feel like you should not be able to reset your item, or it should be a lot harder to reset your item, because it just makes it really easy to abuse to get the best prizes. And I don't know, I'm not a big fan of that. So while I do that, I'm also going to pop open the food kitchen. And the reason why I do this is because doing the kitchen quest has a chance to give your main, like your active Neopet, a chance to get a stat. It's usually not like this expensive. It usually only costs maybe like 5k from my experience per quest. Wouldn't it be crazy if I did all these quests? So you can do 10 of them a day, and usually like 2 or 3 of them end up giving me some kind of stat. Honestly, with how expensive Deputy's training costs are, even one stat increase is usually worth it unless it's agility. Speaking of, wouldn't it be funny if they made agility like randomly be relevant again with the Battle Dome updates that who knows when they'll come, but if they ever do and they make agility relevant, that'd be really funny, because I know a lot of people do not train agility, and it's gonna be really painful when they have to and their pet is not trainable anymore because they only focus on HP. It's me. Well, I have not done any Christmas shopping, and I am like notoriously a bad gift giver. I don't know what it is, but I'm not a very sentimental person. I'm the type of person where I would be extremely fine if someone just gave me money or like gave me nothing even. Of course, I would never do that with someone else, because I've learned since a very young age that people don't like it when you just give them cash. I actually didn't even know until very recently that when you give someone a card, you're supposed to write in it. I was always like, okay, well, I got you a gift. Here's a card. I would oftentimes not even write anything in the card and just give it with the card. And apparently my mom like pulled me to the side one day because I like had been doing it for at least like 5+ years at this point. And she was like, Kevin, you do know you're supposed to like write something in here. It's like really rude when you don't. And I was like, are you serious? You raised me wrong. Why would you wait till I'm almost 30 to tell me this? So now I try to write very heartfelt messages. Cause like for me, it's like, I try to show my love language is definitely like acts of service, or, paying for dinner, or taking someone out to lunch or dinner or something like that, or just like having a night like at our apartment and just like drinking some wine and talking. Like for me, that is like how I show my affection for someone. Gift giving is very much like, I don't put a lot of sentimentality into it. It like is like astounding to me when someone's good at it. So I'm hoping that I can one day develop this skill a little better so that people don't have to be disappointed by my gifts to them. But that's all to say, I have done very little Christmas shopping, and now I have to like get a bunch of gifts for my family. And every Christmas season, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need to get gifts. And I like get extremely anxious about it because I'm just like, what do I get people? I don't know. It's all so stressful. Why can't I just buy a bunch of food? Why is that not allowed? It's the most wonderful time of the year. I think I just bought these twice. Did I just buy these twice? If I did, I'm gonna be mad. I did. This is a petition to TNT. Please add red code stones to the Battle Dome rewards. If you're gonna make stuff cheap again, add the red code stones to your list. Oh, I feel like I should talk about P-Gate. I'm a little late to the game, and I feel like me asking about it in the AMA answered the question, but okay, honestly, like this is probably a little controversial, but I don't think the P should have ever been added in there. Oh, Deputy and a Hame point. See, this is what makes it worth it. I feel like the release of the P has like really heavy downstream impacts on the way that the Battle Dome is balanced. Like when you have items with that number of icons being like heavily mass released to the point where it becomes like the new Scarab Ring or the new Void Blade, like the power creep is like pretty crazy. And when that is literally like the top of what Battle Dome icons look like, it kind of removes any tiering of what Battle Dome sets are. And I feel like people enjoy that layering of the sets and like developing your Battle Dome set and like finding new ways to improve it and like having the next goal. I feel like the Battle Dome is already in such a bad state right now that I feel like for a lot of people, that is the last thing that makes the Battle Dome still feel fun for them. So having that removed is just a very strange energy for me, at least. But who knows? I feel like the Battle Dome, when it finally does get its revamp, if that ever happens, I'm hoping that some of the mechanics of old are improved upon and actually done correctly with the advice of people that are like seasoned Battle Domers, so they have a really good understanding of like what made the Battle Dome engaging for folks in the past to begin with. And maybe that'll just mean that they can release items and like actually have some power creep in the game. I think power creep is fine as long as they're doing it in a very tactful way. And like, to be fair, a lot of the way the items work in the Battle Dome, that tiering system has been in place for probably like 15+ years at this point. So sure, shake it up if you want to, but I don't know if they were in the most well-advised position to be making that decision. Like, I don't know if they fully recognize the consequences of releasing something of that at such a large scale. So it makes sense to me that they like dialed it back a little bit. Oh, another hit point. Hindsight is 2020, but like for me, it's like I would have never put it in, but then putting it in with a drop rate that's too high and then dropping the drop rate and then going super sensational on Reddit and like being like aggressive and like spreading a bunch of misinformation. I don't know. The vibe was like really not great and it kind of bothered me personally. Like people were really aggressive and I was not a fan of it. All right, that might have been the last one. Yes, it was. All right, so I got 2 hit points out of that. That was actually really good. Hit points and levels are all I really want right now. I already hit 750 for both my strength and defense, which means any stat gained in those after that don't actually do anything in the Battle Dome. 5,000 Neo points. I'm rich. No avatar though. Still have not gotten an avatar. I recently learned that the age of the pet that you are sending to the grave danger, I used to just pick one at random, but it appears I need to be tactical with how I do that. I want to give a really big shout out to Knight. Thank you so much for building this lookup for me for Deputy. I've talked about how I want Deputy to be a NCUC Royal Boy Grawl. I'm just so excited to have this drawing of Deputy. Just so talented. Thank you so much, Knight. And it's been fantastic getting to know you. And this drawing is awesome. This lookup is awesome. And once Deputy is actually his true, real self, it's gonna match so well. And I'm just like even more excited for NCUCs than I was before. Yeah, just wanted to give them a really great, huge, big, delicious shout out. Also, and I said it before, but I had so many people dropping by my boards after the AMA and just saying hi and saying I did a great job and just being so supportive. To tell you the complete truth, when I finished that AMA, I had to like run to my bed and just like screamed into my pillow because I felt so horrible. I thought I did such a bad job. I was so anxious. I felt like there were so many awkward moments, and there were so many places in the AMA that did not go as I had originally planned. Just like getting that support really helped to kind of cheer me back up, because y'all, I did not feel good after that. And yeah, it was just really exhausting. So I definitely needed that cheering up at the end. I don't really have anything else important to say. So that is going to be a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I will be back with more content soon. Yeah, I hope you are all staying safe, eating a lot of food, drinking a lot of water, and I will be sure to see you all for the next one. Bye.